I'm going to try not to make this overwhelmingly negative and just a bunch of rant and salt, okay? But you're probably going to get some of that in this video. Just forewarning right in the beginning. A recent patch was released for Marvel Future Revolution, and in the patch they made some pretty bad changes, and changes that are not only bad for long-term players, but especially bad for the health of the game in terms of resource management for newer players. And I do believe that the changes that I'm going to talk about and list are probably some of the worst possible targeted changes they could have done to really make this game more grindy and less free-to-play friendly. I myself am I've spent tons of money on this game, a couple $1,000s now, and I started slowing down about last week, and by slowing down, I mean going from, a couple $100 a week or however much it is at this point with the release to like $20, because their diminishing returns on expenses is extremely high. So as you spend money, the value just absolutely just plummets to the ground. And on top of it, it is seeming abundantly clear to me that as the game launches, they are probably going to be getting greedier and greedier with the game. That being said, like I'm saying, I'm still a fan of the game. I still like the game. I still enjoy the game. But some of these changes are really bad for the health of the game, and I'm just going to be honest about it. So if you're wondering, hey, should I cancel any hype I have about this game? Should I cancel my pre-order that's free? Should I not download when it comes out? This video doesn't deter you from that. You should still play the game for free, okay? But what it does do is shows you that when you play the game, you probably don't want to get hooked on the line for tons and tons of expenses, because their best interest is suited to them for their own benefit and not to you, the player. But this isn't a shocking thing. All mobile games are this way, or at least most of them. Most of them are very, very, very greedy. I've seen some games go the other way, where they try to be like as generous to the populace as they can and get rewarded for that. Like, I find Guardian Tales to be a fairly generous game, like continually generous with their population, and yet it seems to be growing and doing fairly well. So for instance, that's where I'm coming from this point of view, okay? I know it's kind of a long intro, but I want to let you guys know how I feel about it, how you should feel about the game going in the future if you're not actually playing about it. And now let's actually discuss some of the changes and the impact they will have on the game. Okay, so let's get into the actual changes and what actually happened. Here is the update notice. This went live. Here you have the Omega War schedule will be changed. Nothing really matters about that. It starts 30 minutes later, and there's a little bit of a downtime, but nothing really matters there. The adjustments, now this is where it starts to get interesting, because the squad experience and acquisition adjustment, meaning that when you're leveling alts, they've adjusted the rewards you get for doing that. The rewards were quite good. You would get thousands and thousands of squad rank experience, even in just challenges. They didn't say the breakdown of how they adjusted this. I'm assuming it's a nerf, not a buff. The reason is, if it's a buff, they're going to try to make you think they're doing something in your favor. For instance, if we scroll down here to Omega War ranking rewards, and this is kind of where the issue starts, okay? And don't get blown away by their math. I'm going to break it down for you, because it says that it's objectively better for you, but it's not. So it says before adjustment, top 50% will receive rewards. Oh, well, only the top half gets rewards. After the adjustment, top 100% will, everyone gets rewards. So that would be better, right? Well, let's look at it. So before rank 1 would be, and I'm not going to talk about just rank 1. It matters for everyone. It's worse, okay? So for rank 1, you would get 2,500 gems. The premium currency, crystals is what it's called. Now you get 3,000 Omega War tokens, and you get 1,300 free crystals instead. They are valuing one Omega War badge, basically the things you can buy for 3,000 tokens, the PvP badge in the game. They're valuing one of those boxes at 1,200 crystals, which is approximately like 7 poles, to give you an idea. They're valuing that box extremely highly. So they're taking away your option of essentially of being able to choose what you want to do with your crystals, and instead they're forcing you to put it into Omega War tokens. Now, they make up for this fact because, well, look here, before the bottom 50, the 100% didn't get any rewards, but now they get 50. Well, this is just AFK people. So what this is people who just stop playing. I mean, you're still in the top 100% if you either stop playing or not actively pursuing that week, okay? The weekly ranking rewards will be sent according to the above after the maintenance, okay? Meaning that at the end of it, it just rates all of the people bottom to top and spreads it out. And you can look down the breakdown and actually do the math yourself if you want for all these different rankings to see. But it's a nerf across the board for everybody, because what they're doing instead is paying out, is they're taking this cut and they're paying that out to all the people who aren't even playing the game, basically, in order to say, well, it's going from 50%. You see, before it was only 50% will receive rewards, but now it's the top 100%. Well, so we get into the other part, and you're like, oh, I see. A new type of reward has been added, and the previous reward amount has been adjusted to Dimension Duel. So maybe this is where the crystals matter more, okay? Because if you look in Dimension Duel, now in Dimension Duel, you can get tokens, and they added crystals. So you can get your tokens, but they nerfed it by 50%. But obviously, you're going to take 700 less tokens for 700 crystals, right? But keep in mind, this nerf to tokens is because they add the crystals, which they removed from here. They removed more than the 1,200. They added the Omega War token, okay? The other part to keep in mind is if you're free to play, you have a much better chance at placing higher in Omega War, because you can party with your friends and you can party with your alliances, or you can just be a tryhard and play all of the time and repeat over and over and over again until you get good performances, and it only takes your best score of the day. Omega War is something that WoWs absolutely walk around and conquer. And the games pay the win for PvP. No one's going to deny that. I'm a WoW, I would know, okay? I mean, Omega War, it's a joke. I just walk around one-shotting people. I'm doing that less as people are catching up to me and I stop spending, and it's becoming more difficult, but it is something that happens all the time, right? But in Omega War is free to play, you have a much higher chance to be in these top rankings because you can only get your best one score per day. You can do as many of the Omega battles as you want. You can party with your teammates, other good players, hardcores, whatever, and you can actually put something into the algorithm and the equation in order to change your percentage chance of winning. Where Dimension Duel is a straight 1v1 that's nothing but a pay-to-win ladder and kind of an unbalance of characters. Some characters are just worse at 1v1s. That's just a fact. Captain America is a great character, but Captain America is not somebody who's going to win the Dimension Duels every single time, when you can just zap him once and then fly all the way up to the roof where he literally can't even hit you and wait out the timer in Dimension Duel. It's a broken mechanic. So it's not balanced. There's characters that are obviously better than other ones, and it's obviously not something the free-to-play people have the ability to compete in. So what they do is instead they take rewards from something that is more accessible to people who are playing the game. And keep in mind, the free-to-play people, this bottom 100% doesn't help you at all, because all you have to do is play one game and now you're in the top 50%. And that's just how it's going to work. Again, this is going to be all people who are like level, just hit their first Omega War ever once the game gets released and all that. And then it's just going to be everyone else who's actually playing the game. That's what's going to happen. So if you are someone who's free to play and trying to do your best to get rewards, compete with WoWs and all that, you should care about this. This is a direct punch to your gut. Now, you may say, oh, but I get Omega War tokens. You're right, you do, but look at it. All the way down into the top 100 players are the only people that even get Omega War tokens that are worth more than just one win, which you can do 2 of those per day. So you can see where I'm going with this. They slap you in the face and then tell you they're giving you a gift, because it's not. This is a direct nerf to your rewards. Now, the Dimension Duel tokens are another direct nerf to specializations, and this is another thing, okay? And I'm going to show you examples of this. Here, I'll just do it now, actually. So this is the nerf to Dimension Duel is another thing that I don't know if they... they probably thought this through, because specializations is something that people are welling out on. Dimension Duel is something that is a wellable type of PvP competition. There's only one person who can be number 1, number 2, number 3, etc. You're going to want to see yourself on the leaderboard, do an ego thing, and you're going to have people competing to be quote unquote the best player in the world in Dimension Duel, okay? So they're going to get their money's worth out of that, and then what they can do is, because people care and they're more focused about that than it is what it is you actually get out of the rewards. For me, for instance, I care about the Dimension Duel tokens, because if you actually go to the tokens and you look at Dimension Duel tokens, you can use them. Yes, you run out of things to buy, right? It's like, okay, the week is here. I'm going to, for this week, I'm always going to buy my potential, and I'm going to buy my radiance, right? And I'm actually going to do the potential first. I'll explain my logic and all that later. And then what's going to happen is you're going to go through and you're going to buy, all your stuff. Once you run out of stuff to buy, you're going to start buying these shattered anti-Virgium boxes, which are just the lower tier specialization boxes, because that's the only thing left to buy. And you can basically spam those to get specializations. And even though you're rank 1 on one character, you can get specialization boxes, open them, move those to the other character, and level your alts and stuff. And so what they're doing is they're actually nerfing this so that they can sell their bundos, their new bundos in here, that I don't even know where they put them, the specialization supply bundos. Okay, so what they're doing is they're moving the point of interest to crystos and away from flat purchases. So before it was like, oh well, we'll just spend $26.99 and get a boost or whatever. But now they're going to the crystal method. So what's going to happen is you're going to start spending thousands of crystos that you can get in-game or whatever. You notice how they say there's free and paid crystos? So when you get really crazy deals, I promise you they're going to have a difference between both free and paid crystos. There's crystos and then there's free crystos, and they are in fact different, so keep that in mind. And you can see they're going to this crystal layout. So what they're trying to do is move and monetize players from using the in-game tokens to using crystos. That way you're worried about your rank. That way you're worried about competing against other people. So if we pull this back open here and we go back, for the people that are kind of the astute observer, you've probably already put 2 and 2 together and realized that the 1,300 plus the 700 is not as much as 2,500. Okay, so the rank 1 gets literally less even if they place first in both. Now they get less. It used to be he could be first in one, literally 100th or whatever in the other one, and still get more. Now let's look, is that true for second place? As we go down through the list, is that true? Well, it was 2,000, and now it was 1,100 plus 600. Okay, so it's less still. So let's go all the way down to 50th. Okay, so if we go down to the 50th, 41 50th, okay, it was 1,400. Now it's 600. Less than half. Less than half at rank 50 here, okay? You get down to 600 from 1,400 gems. That's from almost a tempo to not even a tempo dimension boxes. And then the 50th here, it's 320. 320. So you should not be tricked by the top 100% and the Omega War tokens. They're giving you, in first place in the world, they're giving you one badge in exchange for 1,200 crystos. I would not be taking that offer every time. I would be passing on that offer. If I could just buy infinite of those boxes for 1,200 crystos, I would buy 0 of them. Okay, and so you can see here, it would take all the way up to Master 3, okay, where you get Master 3 in order to get, let's see, Master 3 is 120, and that is what? That's way low there, 120 plus, if I'm trying to think, if you even wanted a tempo. So if you got Master 3 plus, you literally can't even do a tempo unless you would have to be first in the world and third you'd have to be third in the world in Dimension Duel and first in the world in Omega War to even get a tempo out of these rewards. These are trash rewards. The rewards were bad before the nerf, okay? But it gets worse. So let's keep going here. So the other part of my video where I complained about exclusive stats on Omega cards, which by the way, they don't mention anywhere in here, was the Sen Particle issue, where eventually WoW's or free to play if you're playing like all the time every day. Either way, for the hardcore grinders who are trying to get the most out of the game, you're eventually going to run out of Sen Particles. Like that's the bottleneck to crafting. You can't really farm them very easily, and it takes forever to get them, and for that reason, you're always going to be bottlenecked on them. And unfortunately, the Sen Particles are now being nerfed. Before, it 3 pieces of them would get you 1 regional box, and now it takes 5. So This is a 60 plus, 65% increase approximately here in cost, which is effectively a 65% increase in how long it's going to take to get these. Because if you also look, the gold consumption rate of completing a craft immediately has been adjusted. It's been doubled. It was literally doubled. They doubled the cost of how much it is to rush them. So they did that to get more gold out of whales who will use crystals to buy gold, which I have done, in order to rush out boxes. This is also, it's kind of a punch in the nads, to be honest, because it was already like really expensive. Like, I mean, expensive enough that free to play wouldn't consider doing it. Like, you would just let it progress. You would just always have it running in the background and just pick up the boxes of crafting. So that's a huge unnecessary punch in the nards. So then we move on to the medkit adjustment here, which this is also an unnecessary punch, because if you look here, the cost of even the level 3 medkit is going up by over 10%. The level 4 is going up by, what is that, almost 20%. And then it goes up by 30 here. Then it goes up by 50% at the higher level. 50% for the med potions. The reason this is a big deal is because effectively the algorithm of how much gold you're able to farm while you're AFK is time, into enemies killed, into gold divided for how many enemies, divided by whatever, the cost of potions is. I'm not a mathematician. You get where I'm going with this, is that basically how many guys you kill, how long it takes, how much it costs to kill those guys because you need potions, from them hurting you, right? And, what is the profit gained from killing those minions, from the AFK or sleep mode farming or whatever you want to call it, okay? And unfortunately, this, even though it might seem, well, they increased the price by 100, it's 50% increase. It's a 50% nerf to your gold acquisition is what it really is. Because in the end game, you're only using the higher level potions. And when you're using those potions, the cost of those potions are going to be directly negated against your bottom line. I mean, you're going to have to spend more time to make this same amount of money, effectively nerfing, because there's only so much time you're going to be AFK farming, effectively nerfing your ratio of gold income per minute. It's a 50% cut is what it is for people who use those potions. It doesn't affect every character. Some characters have ways where you don't actually need to use potions at all, like shout out to Captain America to farm, for instance. But let's continue with what this is kind of more targeted at, which I think is leveling alts, to be honest. So if we continue, revival cost per adjustment per region. So you can see it gets more expensive now. The revive, starting right with Hydra Empire, it goes to double the cost, then triple the cost, quadruple the cost, and then now it's 5 times the cost that originally was to revive in Sakaar. For people that haven't leveled to level 100 yet, Sakaar is not a friendly region. Even when you're leveling alts in your squad rank 100 plus or whatever, and you have tons of power behind you and you're well, it's still not a friendly region. If you're semi-AFK, meaning you're watching Netflix or whatever, and it's kind of autoing missions on your phone, you're going to die like all the time. And clicking 5,000 gold is something that people do all the time. I do it all the time. It's not the thing you want to do if you're free to play, because if you're rezzing, you're wasting gold and you can just run right back, especially if you're autoing. But for people that are lazy like me, you just hit the 5,000 gold. It takes some of the gold off of the leveling, so you lost some of your profit, but whatever. And hopefully you don't have to revive like that many times. Maybe you revive like at the most like 20 or 30 times while you're doing a leveling run or whatever, level 100, right? And maybe even less than that, to be honest. So you shouldn't have to use it that much. But this 25,000, what this does is makes it enough where it pushes you beyond the line of like, it's kind of ineffective. So they get you on the hook for that free, they get you for that rake. It's kind of casino rake of res is what it is. So they rake you for 5% of the gold back. But really what it does is it makes the rake too obvious. It's like if the rake's like 12% and like every pot, you're like, I'm not going to make any money in playing poker. The rake's too much. So what effectively this does is make it where people are now just never going to res. Like res no longer is a thing in Sakaar, basically. I mean, because 25,000 gold is ridiculous. You're not going to spend that to res. Like, why would you? The only time you're going to do that, to spend that to res, is when you're trying desperately to beat missions that are instants that you're having problems on, which is a really unfun and unfriendly time to tax the player. That player is currently experiencing the most frustrating part of the game, which is where they're constantly dying in an instance that's difficult. I know that on my first attempts through some of these bosses like Lefay, I needed my revive. And if I didn't have 25,000 gold at the moment, that would have been a huge bummer. Maybe they think that if you don't have the gold to revive and you're close and you're like, I don't have the gold to res, maybe I should buy some gold to res. That is a horrible way to go with the monetization strategy, because you don't want people thinking they have to pay to play, okay? Pay to win is acceptable in mobile games in the moment. I mean, people hate it, and it's not acceptable, and we can talk about the morals and all that. You guys, newer people on these channels might not know I have a whole channel dedicated to like the entireties of the problems with mobile gambling and all that, okay? I mean, I've done my duty to inform the populace on this, okay? But what I'm saying is that mobile gaming is currently acceptable to basically leverage the audience out of all of their money for whatever reason it is in the mobile game genre. We've allowed that. And so for that reason, people are used to pay to win, but pay to play is not a good feeling. So if you die and in order to revive, they want you to put in another quarter, that's not a mechanic you want to go. Like, absolutely. So increasing prices to revive or taxing that part of the game, especially when people are in a really frustrating part of the game, like they just died. And if they're actively looking to use the res or they care, it's at the moment when they're frustrated because they're in an instance, repeatable for free, by the way, version. So all they're going to do is now quit and back out and redo it because it's free just to do that. There's no reason not to do that. Why would you spend the gold on it unless you already have it, right? So it just makes the game more frustrating. And the thing is, I know when people are frustrated, that tends to be where gaming companies want you. They want you to be frustrated while you're in the game. If you didn't know, that's their target feeling, is frustration. If they can get that out of the player, that's when they're most highly likely to spend, is when somebody's frustrated at the mobile game they're playing. And that may be true, but my argument is that exact target feeling that you're targeting with this mechanic is the wrong time to target the frustration mechanic. You want to target your frustration mechanic if you're really trying to do it right on the dopamine part of it, when people are trying to get something exciting, not when they are frustrated because they're getting pounded into the ground. People quit. I don't think the companies realize exactly how frustrating it can be and how many excuses you can give yourself to leave a game. Like, there's a million reasons to not play a game anymore, and there's a million reasons to not even try a game, especially when there's a ton of competitors, even within the same IP. This is not even the same Marvel game of its genre. Think of it that way. So when you're competing with such a large market, and if you want to do the frustration targeting thing, like, you can't do it when people are just trying to play the game. Like, you want audience retention at that moment. That's my argument here. If for the people that are looking at KPIs, like key performance indicators, or people in the marketing over there, you're targeting frustration, I get it, but you're targeting at the wrong moment. You want to do that elsewhere, and instead you should be working on the death and revive, and the goad part should be an audience retention stat that you should be concerned about. And that's kind of my counterpoint in argument here, is that the majority of the people that like Marvel are semi-casual gamers, people that enjoy and absorb content, and those type of people want it to just be casual and make sense and have fun, and it doesn't need to really push them. You died, and now you have to pay this huge price, because people will quit the game before they hit level 100 if they get to level 90, and then suddenly it's really, really frustrating. Like, people will still quit even though they've gone that far. Trust me, they will. So I really, really hope that this is the last of these negative patches and these big kind of sweeping negative changes, because they're going to hide it behind the guise of rewards, and it's better for everyone, the top 100%. But like, we did the math, we looked at it, numbers don't lie. They can give us more of the Omega Ward tokens and act like that's a better benefit, which, sure, okay, great. But then they take away some of the Dimension Duel tokens. So that's a give or trade too. And Dimension Duel tokens are really important because it's the only place that you can just buy uncapped amount of specialization stuff. You can just buy it there as much as you want. And that's a really big nerf there too. So not great, and especially not great for free to play. because they nerfed the bottom part of the ladder. They said now it's only top 100%. But again, the top 100% just means they're paying out AFK people that aren't going to be spending those resources in order to give you less. If they only have 1,000 crystals to give out everyone, and they give 900 of the crystals to people who aren't even playing the game anymore, and then say, look, we gave 900 people with poor people. They got 900 crystals. 100 left for everyone else. You're really only giving out 100. They're effectively reducing the amount of resources they're giving out while saying they're giving more. So don't be tricked. That's what's going on. Sorry about the longer video, but I wanted to give like my full informed breakdown of all of this as I see it. That's my current opinion. You're welcome to disagree, but it's just one Kraken's mobile well opinion. And to be honest, I think I'm maybe done like spending entirely on this game, maybe a couple bucks here and there still. But at this point, I'm not going to reward that patch with whaling. So that being said, love y'all. Thanks for everything. I'll see you on the next video.